Thank you, Wes. As Wes noted, so we are doing these community forums in the evenings. We've got 3 consecutive nights of forums here at the Kalama Middle School, each one featuring a finalist vying for the role of Kalama School District's next superintendent. So as Wes said, my name is Nick Shanmac. I am your Kalama School District's Communications Manager. And before I introduce Matt officially as our guest of honor this evening, again, like Wes said, we just want to thank everyone, whether you're here in person or you're joining us there in Zoom. Appreciate you doing that, taking the time. You really play an important role in shaping the future of our district. So again, thank you for taking the time tonight. Our hope with this forum tonight and with tomorrow's and Thursday nights is to give you all a better understanding of who our finalists are, their educational philosophy, their leadership style, and their strategic vision. So a few rules to go over real quick. I do have a set of questions already for tonight's finalists, and those are questions that were submitted by you members of our staff and our community using the Google form that we shared out. And if you want to see that form, head to our Facebook page. I posted a link again today with that information. Once we're through those already submitted questions, if time allows, we can open things up for additional questions and discussion. So we just ask, keep in mind that questions do not include any personal attacks. So without further ado, let's meet tonight's finalists. So Matthew Holshouser has spent the past 5 years serving as an elementary school principal for, how do we say it? Quileute Valley School District, and that's in Forks.
Yes, sir.
Prior to that, he was a middle school principal for Port Townsend School District. He has 25 years of experience in both public and private schools and earned his master's of education degree from Montana State University in Bozeman. So welcome, Matthew, or Matt.
Thank you. Yes, you can call me Matt. Yes.
So let's kick things off. Would you please tell us just a little bit more about yourself and why you're interested in being Kalama's next superintendent?
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nick, and thank you to participants online. Thank you very much to everybody here. Really appreciate your engagement. Again, Matt Holshouser. I have been indeed teaching now and leading schools for 25 years, taught in the classroom for 14 years, variety of places. Originally, my wife and I are from the Midwest, born and raised in Illinois, but spent most of our teaching experience in Montana. Did have also another unique experience, taught and led a school in Yellowstone National Park. So that took us out west, and we lived in Yellowstone National Park for also 6 years while I was a lead teacher there. Our kiddos were very small there, living in Yellowstone National Park. Then moved up to Livingston, got my master's, as Nick indicates there, coached high school soccer, and then took a job at Livingston High School, or Park High School, Park County High School in Livingston, Montana, as assistant high school principal. Was offered an overseas opportunity to lead a school, an American International School in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So we led a PK5 school there with about 550 students there. Came back to the States, been a middle school principal in Port Townsend, and then, as Nick says, an elementary principal in Forks, Washington, at Quileute Valley. Been married. My wife and I will be celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary this fall. Been married 25 years, and kiddos will be empty nesters this fall. Our kiddos both will be off at college. So quick little bio of myself professionally and personally. So, yeah.
So what was it in particular that drew you to this position?
Okay. Very good. So I've had my superintendent's license since I graduated from Montana State University with an admin educational administration degree, master's there, and really now experiencing all levels of administration from preschool to 5th grade and middle school and in high school as well. Really, I also navigated, or wrapping up this year, the WASA Superintendent's Academy. That's the Washington Superintendent Administrators Association within the state of Washington. So wrapping up that academy, and have been encouraged by my current supervisor as well as other colleagues to consider becoming a superintendent, and saw the Kalama job come up and really thought a great community there on the I-5 corridor, so close by airports and other sort of amenities. Admittedly, in Forks, we're a little more remote and rural, and so this seemed like a very nice community. And saw the opportunity and met some folks, and wanted to potentially be considered for that position. So yeah, and ready for that superintendent leadership.
And you maintain the Twilight connection.
Yes.
Right?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Nick. That's good. That's not something that I was part of the package. So to be clear, with no offense, hopefully taking any Twilight fans, it is happenstance that coming from Forks and also Kalama, but nonetheless, it's good observation. Yes.
Okay, so here's one of our submitted questions from
Yes.
the community. What strategies will you use to effectively engage with staff, students, the school boards, families, and the community?
Excellent question. I had the really good fortune starting today, really hopefully with that sort of piece, and it really is a visibility and entry plan that will consist a lot on listening and learning and traveling around the school district. It's great today. I've had an opportunity to speak with everybody from the district office to students from the elementary level, middle school level, and high school. So I think that any smart leader, as they step in, was asked by a couple different, not only staff members, but also kiddos today, what will be your first levels of change and those sort of pieces, as everyone sort of keyed in on those potentials. Really being thoughtful about having a strategic entry plan, and that's going to be a wide-ranging listening tour. Moving around, talking to constituents and seeing what is out there, what is going well, what are we proud of right now, and then getting that list and reporting back to the board and reporting, sort of celebrating those accomplishments, but also then thinking about what is not going well, what are some current challenges, and then putting our heads together and how we go about sort of prioritizing that, because we can't solve everything in one day or one school year, but putting together a strategic plan around what will be priorities or targeted lists and how we address those. But it really will be grassroots around getting out into buildings and talking to stakeholders. Board chair and I had the good fortune to meet the port director this afternoon as well, and learn a little more about the great partnership there with the port. I would want to continue to foster that and even hopefully improve upon those relationships as it benefits students and families. So getting out and meeting and having that sort of first 100 days, if you will, of leadership, and making sure that I connect with everybody and hear folks' perspective. Again, what's going well, great, let's celebrate those, report out, and what's not going well, and let's create some strategic plans and how we might go about addressing those.
Great. What are your thoughts about the alternative learning experience, the ALE program in Washington State? And this person says, we have a great program here in Kalama.
Yes.
How would you make it better? And then a closely related question that followed that asked, what is your experience working with behavior and special education teams, and how will you support those students, parents, and staff?
Okay, kind of a two-part question. I guess I might have even a question within the linkages, potential linkages with ALE and special ed, but I'll sort of address each. I do have, especially given the pandemic, I think we all can reference some ALE-esque educational sort of platforms. When I was in Port Townsend as a building administrator there, I was also responsible for our ALE program in Port Townsend, so I do have some experience. I might ask a question of how would it improve. I guess I would have to see what we're doing well, and what are areas, when you say improve, what does that mean? Are we improving outcomes for students, learning experiences, teaching and learning? What are we looking to improve? So I guess I would first have some questions within that there. As far as the special ed piece, I've had some rich conversations around special ed today, and learning a little bit about our partnership with ESD, and we really, sounds like we farm out most of that sort of piece. I, of course, have many questions about that. That is not my experience around special ed and how we address that, but I do have a rich understanding from PK all the way to 12 around how we address and how we structure special education. And obviously that's an obligation of our public schools. We want to do that well and well thought out, and how we do that is I'd have to take some more time to sort of dig deeper on what we're doing, again, back to what we're doing well, and then areas where we can improve upon. So, but I have a rich experience in the special ed world, yes. Is there a linkage between the ALE and special ed? Was that kind of some inferences in there question?
I think so. I think that what they were getting at is, yeah, I think just
Okay.
different approaches to
Yeah.
education, different
Yeah.
demographics. And
If we're addressing within the ALE, so kiddo is online or remote via the ALE program, has special needs, again, it would need, because special ed is so individualized, that sort of specially designed instruction, I would need to sort of know particulars around a certain student's needs, and if it's via the ALE program, what would we need to better suit that student and serve that student educationally? So again, at risk of asking more questions, that I couldn't make a blanket answer around how we sort of make sure that interface is seamless for that particular family or student. It would be a case-by-case basis. And what are we, if we're missing something, what is it, and how might we address it?
so this next question I like, it's kind of potentially sort of a get to know you question, but how would you describe your leadership style? And when it comes to your philosophy in leading potential change, what does that look like? Whether that change is a specific initiative or program in the district. What's your approach to that?
Okay. First, leadership style. I hope that I've demonstrated that just today. I'm a very energetic, busy person. I have, for what it's worth, I have a standing desk in my office and move around. I know the student body in which I serve. I pride myself on that in serving at my current level, a little over 400 kiddos, and I ask kids and staff members to test me all the time. I really pride myself in knowing everyone's name and potentially a little something about them. So I like to know the students, staff that I'm serving. So that servant leadership sort of piece is there. I'm here to make sure the resources and structure is there so kids and staff can have a good day, learn and grow each and every day. So that visibility is huge. Communication, we had a nice discussion over dinner this evening as well around communication, what that looks like. These days with technological sort of advances, we can communicate in a variety of different ways, but I think that the human connection and you being right in front of me and vice versa, that there's always some leveled value and experience in that if we can get together in the same room and have conversations. But I would say also a collaborative piece, and truly it's an easy buzzword to throw around, but if we're seeking some level of district level change, building or across the district, we're addressing some issue, we're missing an area, and how do we go about that? And it's meetings, it's collaboration, it's potential surveys, a Google survey to gather what current thought, perspective is out there, perception, and then go from there, and then town hall-esque meetings, staff meetings, constituents, what does that look like? If we made this decision, are there other ripple effects, impacts if we made that positive, negative? But that collaboration, because it's easy as a leader to be thoughtful in an office or have a small constituent group, you plan this level of change. Yes, we all agree, but at the same time, then as we push that out, it wasn't thought out in this area, or we didn't connect with that group, or that's going to be some folks it's really going to affect and we didn't involve them. So really being thoughtful about making sure we involve as many stakeholders that would be impacted by the change, but then also the foundationally, is this change going to be productive and more effective for students, first and foremost, and then hopefully would also be for teachers as they live and work with students each and every day as well. So thoughtful change, so not just changing with the latest fad or thoughtful, but really being thoughtful about some data gathering, some voice gathering across constituents to make thoughtful, not necessarily just change, but improvements upon what we're doing. So improving your life, your teaching and learning, and then thus the outcomes for students.
Speaking of initiatives and programs, is there something that you took ownership of or helped to implement or experienced, maybe in Forks, that you would think, yeah, I'd really like to do that. If I get this position in Kalama, I'd like to bring that with me. Is there something in mind and experience that you could share?
Yeah, it's a good question, Nick. I think, and we talked about that as a staff a little bit, and those have well connected to the educational piece around that MTSS, that multi-tiered student supports pieces. I feel via that initiative, as the pandemic hit in 2020, my building counselor and I really sort of jumped in and took several classes from University of Washington and other sort of stakeholders there, learned more about the MTSS structure. And really led forth with a well thought out social emotional learning sort of piece. So those of you who don't know about MTSS, it's really a behavioral piece for students and supporting them, the academic component of that, as well as then the kind of the social emotional piece, and layered in that mental health support with our counselor. We co-opt with a school district over Medical Lake, Washington. So we actually, and my current counselor is a licensed therapist, so we have online interns that are getting their master's credentials in therapy and clinical therapy. So we have a online as well as in-house mental health program for students at the elementary school. We piloted that a couple years ago. It's now sort of morphed into the middle school. It's now in the process of morphing to the high school. So that is an initiative that we really took on at the district level at elementary, and then sort of now scaled up to the high school. And I think it's had some significant positive effects as we come out of COVID, support students and making sure that they're mentally well to then invest in their learning in the classroom. And of course, not forgetting that academic piece. And we've talked a little bit about student behavior and coming out of COVID and some of those realities, and having to be thoughtful about how we support students as well as teachers, and making sure that our learning environment is calm and everyone's well, because if you're well, then you can attend to the task at hand and learn and collaborate with partners and neighbors and peers. If you're not, then there are challenges. Yeah, so that's something one piece initiative I'm very proud of.
So touching on, again, you talked about supporting teachers. So I think this next question is related to that, is related to staff support.
Okay.
And it asks, do you consider custodians just as important, whether they're day shift or swing shift? And generally speaking, how do you like to handle staff concerns?
Great question. Two-parter again. Yes, custodians are vital. So if there's a custodian out there, yes. And I would say if we had my current custodians here, they would say if I'm stressed or going through a little scenario, that I'll go back out on the loading dock and throw trash bags with them as just a little moment of therapy, if you will, come back in the building and address whatever issue. So yes, custodians are vital. Every person's vital. If they show up and serve kids every single day, they are a vital part of the team. And so absolutely. The other part of the question was, how do I address staff issues?
Yeah, staff concerns.
Staff concerns, okay. I hope that my staff always knows that either via my visibility or my open door policy, send me a note, message me, come by, call something, or as I'm traveling around, I hope that I would always demonstrate that level of openness to say, hey, Matt, I've had any trouble with this. I wanted to let you know, and can you help? And so that open communication. So it's not always relying on them to tell me, then also asking questions like, how are you doing, and how's your job going, and how can I help? What do you have or what do you not have that might be helpful? So engaging in that sort of two-way street for that support. But I want to be supportive to all staff across all spectrums across the district, yes.
Next question from the community is, how do you feel a successful athletics or activities department affects a school?
I was asking today about participation levels because I think that that's a first indicator of what percentage of our middle school, high school students are involved in athletics. I think that that's some metric, and that's not to be clear, Nick, around making sure that we're supporting the arts, performing arts across the spectrum. I think that that's key. I do feel, especially at the middle school and high school level, obviously, some level of engagement in your school life beyond just the classroom and homework is vital. And if we could get every kiddo involved in something extracurricular would be excellent. So that would be first and foremost, is that participation level. How do I gauge a success? Without sounding cliche, that doesn't necessarily mean just more trophies, medals, ribbons, what have you, in a trophy case. But are students participating at a high level? Are they demonstrating good sportsmanship when we travel out there? Are we spoken of in Kalama to be good sportsmen, sportsmen, sportswomen out there on the field, court, what have you? Are we demonstrating good integrity, respect for the fellow teammates? So those are integral as well. And then I think we put all those together, have good coaches lined out, teaching kiddos how to participate at those levels. And then potentially even post-secondary engagement in either sporting teams or arts, performing arts. That's also another metric. And are kids happy? Is it cyclically our teams are populated with kids that want to be there, perform at high levels, and try hard? I think that then the wins and the trophies and things come from that. So very foundationally, if it's high participation level, kids are happy, things are going well.
Awesome. So I do have a couple more questions left from the community, but I think we're doing pretty good on time. So I want to check for folks that are here in person. If you want to raise your hand, does anyone have any questions? All right, we'll come into you, Lori. Well,
Okay.
For Zoom to hear you, we need to hand you the mic.
Earlier in the evening, you mentioned the fact about having collaboration with community and maybe some kind of a forum for the community.
Absolutely.
Have you had success with that at the other schools that you've been at, or?
Yes, for one, I guess I would, and post-pandemic, admittedly, I have not gotten back to that after the pandemic, although I just said to a PTO president just the other day, wanted to get back to that. I sponsored a once-a-month coffee with a principal, and I've done that couple different times a day, sometimes during the day. Obviously, that addresses a certain set of oftentimes mothers that can have that sort of flexibility to come in during the day, but then also in the evening, so to engage those workaday families as well. So that would be one. I would foresee that kind of community relation to be able to publish. Superintendent will be down at this coffee shop once a month for constituents that want to engage, and that I think that those can be very informal conversations, but it would help me as a leader to have a pulse on what our community is engaging, and also potentially engaging with families, individuals that don't have children in the district that are still positively affected by the success of our school, and yes, taxes and those sort of pieces, but hear our story and be able to ask me questions, and potentially a team that I bring along, maybe even a principal or a district office leader there. But thoughtful ways, meet at the port, and this time meet with myself and a port manager and here to talk about our initiatives in this area, or continued support in this area with college and career readiness for all of our students, but really being out there. But you have to be strategic, and first several times no one shows up to your coffee. Hopefully over time more folks show up, and even if it's a party of 3, it's still you're affecting some level and those 3 go out and talk to 3 more, and then 3 more, and sort of the positive ripple effect. But yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, coffee with the principal, coffee with the superintendent, certainly something I plan.
Any other questions at the moment? Oh, no more. One more from Lori.
Oh good, thank you, Lori, appreciate that.
So something that Kalama's been very, very blessed with is an absolutely awesome school board.
Yes.
We've had the multiple years, we have a couple newbies, but,
Yes.
Long-term a village. What is your thought on the possibility of having up to 4 of those people replaced this year? Unfortunately.
Well, the reality, I think, at the superintendent level is when you step in, and they are my supervisors, and so regardless of my feeling about those individuals, it's my job to engage with them to make sure that the resources and the efficacy of the school district is there. So, and that is because it's an elected volunteer underscore, and I guess I would give, we were just talking a little bit ago, I'd give all the school board members a shout out, because that is a volunteer position that, in my humble opinion, often goes under-thanked or under gratitude recognized for that work. But my commitment as a leader to the community, regardless of the school board composition, it would be my job to make sure that we work collaboratively, just like I turn and work with principals and teaching staff and parents, to work with them and make sure that we're making good, thoughtful choices around resources, finances, structure, to make sure that Kalama continues to build on what is already established here physically and climate and culture, and move beyond. So it's a good thought, and I know it's maybe sort of a very thoughtful piece around current school board members, but that's the lay of the land, and if I were chosen as the leader, I would just have to roll with that and potentially meet new people and form relationships and go beyond. Yeah. I have, yes. Yeah. It can be challenging, and I guess I would understand that any leadership in the school board is certainly a leadership piece. Anytime you change leadership within an organization, there are potential sort of slowdowns, humps, navigation to sort of recalibrate and get back up to where you were, and hopefully sort of continue to scale up. We would have to recognize that, and I wouldn't want to then turn to students and staff and families and say that we're going to have a slowdown because now we need to sort of recalibrate. I would hope that I could do my due diligence, meet individuals if we were to come to pass, and make sure that we quickly get up to speed so the students, their families, and staff recognize little change in their support and continue, because obviously you've got many great things going on here in Kalama, and I would not want to put on the brakes or derail from that current trajectory.
Okay, this next question I think touches on a topic that is on the minds of families really across the country, I would say.
Sure.
What role do you see parents and families playing in the education of their children?
Well, I guess I would say, and especially working at the elementary level in several different sites, parents are the children's first educators, first and foremost. As we as families have kiddos, one kiddo, multiple kiddos in your house, you as a parent are their first educator. So that's foundational in my belief. And then how do we partner with you as a family to, as your kiddo becomes school age and beyond, how do we partner with you to celebrate their current strengths and then work on their weaknesses and grow them forward to make sure that everyone is graduating. Again, as said to the staff this afternoon, one of the very sole goals of a school district is every student that enters, if they stay through the PK, TK trajectory all the way to high school, is every student graduates. That's the goal. If we miss that mark, we can be thoughtful, that kiddo, this kiddo, what can we change systematically to change that or make it more possible for more or all kiddos to graduate, but that is the goal, that every kiddo graduates. But parents can be engaged. I think I know I get a blessing at the elementary school. When your kids are this high, it's easy to be engaged in the school because they need that supervision and that support. But as parents, I would pledge that your kiddos need you as much or more in middle school, and then certainly high school. Engage, come to school, come to activities, talk to your child's teacher, whether it be online, on the phone, face-to-face. Come talk to your child's principal. As much as you can be around, as work will accommodate or whatever your life schedule is, engage in the school, come here and be engaged in some fashion. That will show your child, even if you don't even enunciate it, it will demonstrate that your child, you value education, you want to be there, you're engaging with your child's teacher, principal, school board, superintendent, what have you, then education is important, and I'm going to be there along with you. So those are just a few pieces I think are essential. But parents are partners. They have to be partners. They're the first educator of their children, and we want to be partners through the entire process.
So your experience has been as a school principal, but not yet as a superintendent.
Correct.
So I'm wondering, what is maybe you can speak personally about what it is that drew you to say, I've done this, no, I want to do that.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Nick. I think that the real driving force for me, even just knowing myself personally, is the curiosity. And I really enjoy, truly, if I had to be honest, I think of any of the principalships, the elementary principal is probably the best job in the district. I mean, it's a great job. At the same time, having served as middle school principal, as well as an assistant high school principal, I enjoy the scope of all the age of kiddos. And I am a very diverse and curious person. And I think one thing that draws me to the superintendent is the engagement I get around a wide variety of topics on any given day. Take for today, for example, I get to talk to students, elementary students, fourth graders who are asking me why we want to move to Kalama, and things about leadership at a 9-10-year-old level. I get to drive down and talk to the port manager. I get to come back here and talk to middle school kiddos. Then I get to be invited to a high school leadership community with a teacher. That diverse day and engagement with a variety of different people, that I love that. And so that's probably foundationally most enticing about the superintendent level, is engaging with so many different constituents across the school and community members to make things happen for a community and young people. And that's one of my strong callings.
So I want to check in again with our folks here or on Zoom. If anyone has any questions, we've got about 15 minutes left. Any questions? While people online may be thinking of a question, I'd like to ask you about how you recharge. So obviously, as a superintendent, there's a lot on the plate.
There is.
And certainly on a lot of plate as a principal.
Yes.
How do you recharge yourself, maintain that sort of sanity, and what maybe a side question to that, what do you like to do for fun?
My wife and I, family, we certainly like to travel a lot. I would say that one of my newer endeavors, I've always enjoyed being a runner, but really doubled down. I turned 50 a couple years ago and made a commitment to myself to be an ultramarathon runner. Completed a 50-kilometer race in the mountains on the Olympic Peninsula at 50, and now have been resolute each year do at least one race, 50-kilometer, 50-mile, and we'll see if the next one is maybe 100 miles. But so I really enjoy out in the wilds, in the woods, mountains, ultra marathon running. So that's sort of individually, but spending time with my family, traveling. Our kids are going to be away, son in Bellingham, daughter in California. Time now with just my wife. I enjoy traveling as much as the workload and things would accommodate, and just some level of peace, but really the running piece. Get up early and run. That provides a lot of solitude, as well as thinking through some problems that we have as an organization, and how to go best about resolving those. Yeah.
So one of the things that I've certainly been in a lot of discussions with other communicators in schools around the region, and I think especially post-pandemic, is districts really having to tackle behavioral issues and mental health challenges and things that have really, I think, come to a head in many ways post-pandemic. What is your experience in that, and do you have any philosophies or you mentioned a few different initiatives and programs related to that, but how do you see tackling that issue maybe as a superintendent?
Yeah. My first take on that would be, it is real, having served at the building level, obviously currently this year was challenging. It was interesting to talk to Kalama staff today around last year was also challenging around student behavior. Like it or not, and I'm very thoughtful about utilizing the pandemic as a level of crutch or an excuse for what have you, but it is a reality. My current setting, much like here, having students as young as 3, 4, 5, having some significant behavioral issues that challenge the physical safety and certainly mental safety of fellow students and, to be honest, teachers. It was a pretty rough first 2/3 of the school year for us as well, so it's real. It's not unique to Kalama, Forks, Washington, it's across the nation. But I would underscore some pieces that I put in as connections with families, and back to that the families are those first educators, and really foundationally we're teaching kiddos even as old as 17 and 18 years old. If they respond in a way that negatively impacts themselves, the physical or mental safety of students around them, staff, post 18, post graduation from high school, if you do that on the job, out there on the street or in your home, and there's some challenge with safety around family, that is more of an issue than just being sent to the principal's office and somebody sort of giving you a talking to or in school suspension. So making sure that that's clear with families, because this is the training ground, as it were, for young people up to 18 years old. After this, again, the impacts potentially on your life and the consequences are potentially pretty grave. And so our responsibility in collaborating with families is to make that very clear. We're not trying to overly punitive or exclude or whatever it may be, but at the same time, if your child does this, again, post-high school, that's really going to negatively impact potential opportunities down the road for them. So let's collaborate and let's try to minimize those pieces. In my experience, when said like that to families across whatever demographic, that resonates to some degree. Now what we do systematically, logistically, obviously as a school, although maybe we need to sort of continue to message that out, we are accountable, and by law we just can't kick kiddos out. And oftentimes our hands are tied quite a bit on what we can or can't do with students. But we want to be respectful and we want to be thoughtful. But it's underscored in teaching students appropriate behavior for a public setting, and that they will go out eventually outside of these walls and into a job place and a relationship on whatever. And if they act like this, oftentimes that workplace or those relationships will not flourish. And I look at parents, I think we would say about our own children, we wouldn't want that to happen to our own children who we're in charge of in the school district. So how can we collaborate to make that not negatively impact here in the building setting?
Oh, we got a question from Lori. Hold on, Lori.
Yep. Sorry, you have to have the mic every time, Lori. Sorry.
Do you see yourself, back in the subject, do you see yourself acting on those or having it left up to the principals and the counselors to do?
We had that exact discussion this afternoon. I would want to make sure that I support principals appropriately so. And so, hi there. Making sure that I'm very thoughtful about potentially undermining the capacity and efficacy of a building principal and or teacher. So being really thoughtful about if they needed me to be part of that, they were requesting my input, I would certainly be there. And likely, I'm the kind of person that I want to know. So you can call, text, email, something. Make sure that I know a scenario. If you think that this is going to get a little bit sort of more heavy than you thought initially, I want to know about it first and foremost. But I am very resolute around supporting teachers and principals in the work daily, because this is not easy work. Because on that note, I guess it's worth saying that if families or others have a certain challenge and they come directly to the superintendent, my first question back to them is, have you spoken to your child's teacher? Have you spoken to your child's principal? Have you spoken to your child's counselor? Because at that we have the systems in place, if there are challenges per the building, that those are the first pieces. And if you get together, those parties get together and they're not able to solve it, then maybe it sort of comes up, and eventually it comes to me to help find some solutions and creative solutions, all knowing that I probably know about it as it's potentially scaling up, or if it is. But that's my commitment to teachers and principals. They're hired, they're very effective. You have some great people here in Kalama that are doing some great things, and just seeing the relationships with kids today, that's one piece that I would say absolutely as a superintendent, supporting them first and foremost. That's the best way I can to do that, and then helping them out where needed.
So Kalama, I'm sure in many ways not unlike Forks, but it's a small town, rich with traditions. At the same time, it's growing.
Yes.
I wonder, as a leader, how you balance the ability to grow, to implement new things, but to continue to honor what has been tradition, those that have come before.
Yes.
How do you tackle that?
Yeah. Thoughtfully, these kind of conversations, even sort of data pieces around surveys, if there are, so if we're back to the sort of talking about change and sort of initiatives, making sure that we have a thoughtful, some data metrics around what is the perspective, what is the perception of staff, students, families around X topic. If we're looking to potentially implement something, change something, we talk a lot about it, message it out, gather some data, some feedback, get some thoughts around there, and then analyze that, and then sort of push forward potentially if the feeling is right. And because I think all too often we as school leaders think this is a great plan, and oftentimes it is, but even the greatest plan, if the system and the individuals that make that initiative truly happen, it's going to fall flat on its face. And so you need to make sure that you're going at a thoughtful speed, because I think that one piece in knowing, working with teachers as well as principals, it's rife with change, and we're always changing the pendulum. We talk about the pendulum swinging one side to the other and change and that initiative, but that kind of fell on its face. If we go at a thoughtful pace that makes sense, it's making sense for student learning, engaging voices, and making sure that we're thoughtful about all of our constituents, yes, saying, or at least the majority of constituents saying, yes, I agree with this idea, yes, I'll back this, yes, I'll bring this curricular piece to fidelity, or yes, I'll put in the system in my classroom, then we can actually move and start to move the needle beyond. But if we in the district office or the building level say, this is a great idea, and we go charging forward, and then we look around and like there's maybe one or two people behind us, as good of an idea as that was, it'll fall quickly flat on its face, because there's not enough momentum and individuals to bring that forth. So you need to be wise about just change and what those, and how you engage the constituents that are actually going to make that change a reality, because you, anybody in this room can't do it by themselves. We need the entire organization moving forward.
Perfect. Just a few minutes left. I want to give one last opportunity for those on the Zoom call or in person if anyone has any last questions. Okay. Matt, I'll give you the final few minutes to give a kind of a final pitch here to the community. Okay. Anything that you'd like to add that you want the community to know about you?
Sure. I guess I would just first to start by a thank you. Thank you to Nick and Bob, the IT guy, you all, school board. Thank you for the opportunity even just to be considered for your next superintendent. Again, if it come to fruition, and I would have the good fortune to be offered a position, what you see here today, or the way I engage with families, is what you would see on a day-to-day basis. I show up early and very visible around, make thoughtful decisions for students. I'm here for students. We all are, to be thoughtful about that. stay here throughout whatever weekend hours. So I'm well versed in what the capacity takes to run a building, certainly a school district, well, to make sure that's serving all of our families. And I would just underscore that servant leader, that truly is my heart, and making sure that I am doing something and making some positive change that's far bigger than myself or even us in the room, that we can make Kalama a better place, even better place than it already is for students and families and our school, because our community prospers from that. People want to move to a community that there's a strong school district, regardless of whether you have students in the school district, because we all benefit. Because the more people come in, there's more housing developments, because hey, they got good schools there, kiddos can go there, you can work here. People are drawn to those kind of places, and I would hope that we would be able to continue that sort of level of engagement or response here in Kalama. So thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Well, that will do it for this evening's forum. Thank you again, Matthew Holshouser. Thank you
Thank you, Nick.
for taking the time, and for those of you online on Zoom and here in person, thank you for showing up. Same time tomorrow, we'll have our next finalist. So everyone have a good evening.
Thank you.